Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, author, media and PR coach, copywriter, editor and proofreader, and founder of Vegan Business Media, a content, events and training platform providing success tips for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. Before we go into the main part of the show, I want to let you know about a new online PR course for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs that I'm running. It's called Vegans in the Limelight and it starts in June. That's 2017 if you're listening in the future. And you'll learn how to get free publicity by getting yourself featured in the media on a regular basis. Now, the course is particularly for vegan professionals who can't afford to hire a PR firm or a publicist at the moment. And I'm running it because I see so many vegan business owners, authors and entrepreneurs missing out on golden opportunities to get into the media, either because they're not confident in approaching journalists because they don't have the skills, or they're pitching the media the wrong way. So I'm going to share with you the strategies and techniques for how to do your own PR. The course is tailored specifically for vegan business owners, so there'll be downloadable templates, case studies and bite-sized video training. You'll be able to post questions on the learning platform, which I'll personally respond to, and there'll also be 3 live group calls you can jump on to ask me anything about getting into the media, and I'll give you answers specifically for your business. So you're not going to be left to struggle along on your own with the course. So if you're keen to get your vegan brand in the limelight, head over to veganbusinessmedia.com where there's a link to the course with all the details. And I'll also put the link on the show notes page. And if you type in the coupon code podcast as you enroll, you'll receive a special early bird rate before the 20th of April. In this episode, I interview Susan Prolman, who started Veg Shop on the Etsy platform a year ago as a hobby to test the waters in becoming a business owner. Susan is a lifelong advocate for animals. She served as Executive Director of the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition and as a Director of International Campaigns for the Humane Society of the United States. She's lobbied against factory farming and for environmental protection in Washington, D.C. for years. Before graduating Georgetown University Law Center with honours, she helped to create the school's first animal law course. Veg Shop features Susan's handmade jewellery and accessories with messages such as "Go Veg" and "I love pigs." The aim is to help customers express the joy of being vegan. In this interview, Susan talks about the benefits of Etsy, particularly if you have little money to invest up front to sell your products, the challenges of selling on a crowded platform, particularly when you're starting out, the quickest way to create a community of people interested in your items, how she partnered with non-profit organisations which helped boost her sales, the importance of SEO when running an Etsy store, the time investment required to run a successful Etsy store and how that changes as the store becomes established, and much more. Here's the interview with Susan Prolman from Veg Shop. Hello, Susan. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Katrina, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
No, I think it's great, and I'm really glad that you reached out because I like the way that you approached the podcast, because you actually gave me some food for thought in that you're slightly different to some of our regular guests in that what you do is, I guess we class it more as a kind of side hustle to sell your products. And I think this is as you mentioned, it's a really great opportunity for anyone listening who's perhaps thinking of starting a business or thinking of dipping their toes in the water, but not quite ready to commit 100%. They just want to kind of test the waters out. And I think what you're doing is a wonderful example of that. So really pleased to be having a chat with you about this today. So tell us about the why. Again, it's the first question I ask everybody, and you're no exception on that regard. So tell us a bit about why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you running your Etsy store veg shop?
So, I'm a lifelong advocate for compassion for animals. But I also, like so many people out there, I have hobbies and I have, a calling to create beautiful things with my hands. And I know that a lot of your listeners as well have talents and create items. And so I blended these two callings together by opening an Etsy shop. My Etsy shop is called Veg Shop. And through Veg Shop, I sell jewelry and accessories that are designed to help people express the joy of being vegan. And this does a lot of things. It helps me to help other people to show the world that being vegan is beautiful. It helps me to express my creative side. And also I donate some of my Veg Shop jewelry items to some of the nonprofit organizations that I support. So it's, something that covers a lot of ground for me.
Wonderful. It's like creative activism, which is
exactly.
I love that.
Right. There are terms going around like craftivism and artivism.
Oh, yes.
It's something along those lines.
I love that. Activism and craftivism. Fantastic. Wonderful. So with Veg Shop, so as you mentioned, it's kind of more of a hobby or something creative for you to do rather than necessarily to run as a full-time business. So let's talk about some of the challenges so for someone who maybe wants to start up something similar to this, what were some of your challenges when you first started up Veg Shop?
Well, and even if I could take one step back, Katrina, one question that some folks in your audience might have is, what is Etsy? I'm not sure if everybody's heard of it. And so basically, it's an online platform for, entrepreneurs to sell their unique goods, to focus on handmade items. And I'm not here to promote Etsy in particular. Just the concept of getting the items that vegans make out there into the world. And so I basically started all of this as an Etsy customer. That, Etsy happens to be the platform that I started on because I used to enjoy being a customer, and I would type vegan into the search bar and look at all the great things that were for sale. And eventually I started selling my own items there. There are challenges to starting up. And the big challenge is there are 1.5 million Etsy sellers. So there's a lot of competition. Almost every type of product that you sell is going to be a crowded space. And particularly when you start out and you don't have any history of sales or anything like that, it's a challenge to drive potential customers to your site and make some of your first sales.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that's a lot of sellers on Etsy. So.
I actually said that wrong. It's 1.7 million.
Oh, 1.7 million active sellers. Wow.
Yeah, so they have a lot of sellers.
For sure.
And as a result of which, there are a lot of great vegan items that you can purchase through Etsy. I'm still a customer and still look on at many of the cool things that people are selling to get the vegan message out there. It's really fun. It's a fun place. Yeah. But as a seller, you do have to find a way to, get people to purchase from you as opposed to somebody else.
So how did you do that?
Well, I was very fortunate. I've had a career in the nonprofit world in Washington, D.C., and I'm a active volunteer with a lot of really wonderful organizations, and have great friends who are leaders in the vegan movement. So I got a lot of help right off the bat when I opened my Etsy shop a year ago from some wonderful people. One partnership that I've really enjoyed is with the nonprofit organization Compassion Over Killing. They helped me a lot to get the word out about my new Etsy shop, as did other nonprofit organizations. and lots of great friends who put out plugs for my shop on Facebook and other social media outlets.
Fantastic. And that's a really good example of creating that community and tapping into people that you know, because often people, go into this kind of space and they're like, oh, but who am I going to sell to? How do I reach them? And it's always a good place to start with who you know. And I think you're a great example of having done that. You've really sort of tapped into your community and your connections. So that's great. Now, in terms of the challenges then, what about in terms of time, like particularly for people who are, they're working full time and then they're doing this. So approximately how much time do you spend on your Etsy project, say, per week?
Yeah, I do think that is, you've really hit the big question for anybody thinking about possibly opening an Etsy shop or a shop on one of the other, online platforms like Amazon Handmade or Shopify or anything else. Is this going to be worth my investment of time? I've spent a lot of time on my Etsy shop. It does take a lot of time. Some people will spend time creating a shop, creating the products, putting their products online, and then they're disappointed that they don't get any sales or they get very few sales. And I think a lot of people give up fairly quickly. So the fact that it's time consuming is, in my book, the biggest investment. One of the things that's nice about Etsy is that it's inexpensive to get started. It does not cost you any money to open up an Etsy shop. Each listing costs 20 cents for 4 months, which I think is pretty reasonable.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap, right? So, and then they charge you a 3.5% fee for any item sold. So in that sense, you don't have to put a lot of money out at front. So for an opening shop, it's really good. But it is a question that people should ask themselves. You go into it understanding that it takes time to create and manage and then drive traffic to the shop. It may or may not be for you. There are other ways to sell. Or you could even, some people might make wonderful things, food, fashion, what have you, and just give them away to friends and family and non-vegans, which is great. Some people might like to sell face-to-face and at veg fests and whatnot. But if you're just wanting to dip your toes into the water of an online platform, this is an approach to consider. But again, think about, do you have the time, and is it going to be worth it for you in the end?
What is your time most spent on, Susan? Because obviously you're creating your jewellery and your items, and then also, like you said, you're having to spend time on marketing in terms of, actually getting people there, because you can make the most wonderful, fantastic, beautiful things in the world, but if nobody knows about them, they're not necessarily going to buy them. So approximately what time do you spend on, say, marketing as opposed to, actually creating your products?
Yes, and one of the frustrating things for a creative is I find that you have to spend more time marketing than you do making.
Yeah.
And so that can be a little bit disappointing. And my time has changed. It's sort of morphed, and there's more time up front. Like up front, you set up your shop. You really have to have a good number of listings. They say it should go beyond 1 page worth of listings, and so to create all those listings takes time. And then to set up social media takes time. I personally am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest with this. And I don't probably spend as much time on Pinterest as I should. But, so setting it up and getting it up and running takes time. Once you've got it up and running, I found that my time shifted to other things. So, for example, recently I've been experimenting with online advertising through Google AdWords and through Etsy ads themselves. And so I've spent some of my time on that kind of marketing as opposed to some of the things I did earlier on.
Okay, got it. I think that's good for people to hear. And like you say, obviously starting up anything, there's that investment of time, just as you say, to get things ticking over. So this is great. I mean, I must admit, I don't know too much about Etsy. I know of it. I've not actually bought from it, but I'm aware of it. So, and in fact, I was looking for some vegan glitter sneakers that I couldn't find anywhere. And I posted and someone said, try Etsy. And I did actually kind of Google vegan and vegan glitter. And I did see a lot of stuff come and I'm like, oh, this does look like quite a cool platform. So it's good to hear about the ins and outs of running that. And yeah, like you say, it's that a lot of creatives find that is that you can make your stuff, but unless you've got someone else doing your marketing, you've got to put just as much, if not more, effort into marketing to get that stuff out there. So thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic. So you talked about some of the benefits of particularly the Etsy platform. Is it was very inexpensive to set up, which is fantastic. And I noticed you said that you chose Etsy because you'd also be a customer. So you mentioned a couple of those other platforms like Shopify, Amazon Handmade. I guess there's eBay as well as another one that springs to mind. So is there a reason? So are you kind of sticking with Etsy, or do you see yourself going on other platforms? I'm just kind of curious as to whether you would recommend, once you've kind of got going on, say, one platform on Etsy, would you also consider going onto another platform?
Yeah, I definitely would. So again, my shop is only a year old at this point in time, and I'm still growing it. I would like to have my own website. And some people will do e-commerce websites through Shopify, Squarespace, Weebly. I've heard of Wix. I can't speak to these in particular. But it's nice once you're a little bit bigger and more mature in your shop. It's nice to have your own URL that you can drive people to, as opposed to driving them to Etsy. But I have heard a lot of success stories where people start as a solo entrepreneur on Etsy, grow it, create their own website, but then they keep their shop on Etsy as well, because it just broadens their potential market that much more.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said that, because, and same with places like Amazon and eBay. I know you said there are massive amounts of sellers, but I guess there's also a huge amount of potential customers as well on those platforms to get in front of. Yeah, cool.
And Amazon created a subset called Amazon Handmade, which is their attempt to compete with Etsy. Okay. Yeah, so like, in other words, Etsy's so popular that people are starting to copy it now as well.
Got it. Cool. Now, you mentioned the veg shop. It's a year old at the moment. So is it just you running everything at the moment, Susan? Or do you have any staff?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just you at the moment. Okay.
No, it's just me. It's very simple, and right now I'm enjoying that aspect of it. But again, other people have started an Etsy site and grown it into a business with large staff. So I'm keeping my mind open for the future.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. So you talked a little bit about the competition, and I put that in quotes, and about how you've stood out and maintained your customers, and you tapped into your existing networks. What about in terms of your actual goods? So are there any particular kind of, I guess, unique selling points, or anything that you use to say with people who don't necessarily know about your products? How do you think that what do you do to make them stand out in that marketplace?
Well, so what I sell at this point in time, although I'm always experimenting and expanding, I sell mainly necklaces, but also some other accessories like keychains and pins and magnets that say the word vegan, or they might say go veg, or they might say I love pigs. I have some that are pet related, like adopt, don't shop. And I also have done some with that are actually just paintings of cows or baby goats or what have you. So they're basically predominantly items that help people use their body as a billboard to express the message that being vegan is a joy, being vegan is beautiful, and just help activists share the whole concept of being vegan with the rest of the world.
Cool. So they sound pretty unique, which I guess is what Etsy is all about, in that actually buying something handmade rather than mass produced.
Yes, that's exactly right. They are. And then, an interesting turn, Katrina, that my shop has taken in 2017 We had an election here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think we know about that.
You might have heard.
Yeah.
So I know it was popular in Australia as well. The Women's March back in January was a very busy time for me because I had a friend, Carrie, had a lot of guests coming into Washington, D.C. to participate in the Women's March, and reached out to me for a commission for items related to the Women's March. People were choosing their own sort of inspiring statement or their intent for the Women's March and beyond. And then I got other requests like that as well. And I added a resist safety pin to my Veg Shop collection. And that has been so far the best-selling item among people I don't know, people who are just Etsy shoppers who are coming to Etsy for merchandise that expresses their concern with the current state of the world.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. I love that. I love that you got commissioned as well to do that. How do you keep up then? Like if you've got something like that where you've got a commission, I mean, how do you kind of handle that? Like, because you create everything yourself and I guess you ship it out yourself. So how does that kind of work?
Yeah, it gets busy sometimes. I mean, I'm still a small shop, so sometimes it's not busy, then sometimes I really get slammed. But so far, it's been manageable in terms of the flow. But it's also part of, listening to what people are asking for and responding.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that you said, it's now become the best-selling item because obviously if people are getting it from your Etsy shop, they're also then able to see your other products like, your cool kind of animal rights, vegan type products. So it's sort of exposing you to that bigger market, which is fantastic.
No,
and
I try to use some of my listings for further education of people. So, for example, in some of my listings, some of the percent is donated to Compassion Over Killing, and so I'll put a little link to their tryveg.com website as well. So I try to get the message out there everywhere I can.
Fantastic. Now we're talking about competition. I mean, a lot of marketing gurus say, "Oh, we shouldn't really be thinking about competition. We should be talking about collaboration." And it sounds like you're doing that to some extent. What about with other businesses that maybe are a little bit similar to yours? Like, have you done any kind of collaboration or joint ventures with those? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would love to. I haven't done that yet, but I am a customer of many of the other creators of vegan merchandise on Etsy. So I consider them colleagues. I'm excited that they're out there doing it. I think that there are a lot of sellers of vegan merchandise on Etsy. I'd love to see even more.
Cool. No, that's great. Now, you touched on some of the marketing strategies that you've used to grow Veg Shop. Social media seems to be quite a big one, as opposed to, say, going out and doing veg fests. Is that right?
Well, I've actually done some veg fests, and some of those have been really terrific. So that's really great. The funny thing, Katrina, is my first sale, which was before I even opened Veg Shop, and then actually was the one that sort of made me think, oh, this item is marketable, was right off of my neck. Somebody saw me wearing one of my necklaces and got extremely excited and insisted on buying it right there on the spot. And since that time, it was really fun. It was really reinforcing. And so since that time, I try whenever I go out where I'm going to see other people to wear one of my creations. And many people have bought them straight off of my neck. I do find that person-to-person sales are effective and also a lot of fun. So
you're a walking billboard. I like that.
I try to be. So one of my customers and also one of my heroes is Katie Arth. She heads up communications with people for the ethical treatment of animals, and she says, "Make your body a billboard for the animals." And you can do that by wearing a T-shirt, but you can do it by wearing jewelry or accessories or pins or a tote bag or what have you. So I try to do that as well.
Fantastic. And like you say, particularly something like jewelry as well, it's great to see it on somebody as well, so they can see what it looks like. So I love that.
Yes. I mean, when people see it, I actually have higher sales, I think, when they see it in person, because there might be a fear when you're buying through the internet. Will I be disappointed when I see it in person? Whereas people get very excited when they see it. I find them really effective. Just to give a little, story about it, I find that if I'm wearing a necklace that says vegan, if I go into a restaurant, often the waiter or waitress will say to me, "Oh, I see that you're vegan. I'll make sure that there's no cheese on this," or what have you. So that tells me that even people who themselves are not vegan are really reading it and understanding what it says.
Fantastic. It's a great conversation starter as well, isn't it? Which is
absolutely
a great way to kind of ease into the topic without saying, right, I'm vegan and an animal rights activist. Let's talk. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's there looking pretty on the net. It's, you know what I mean? It invites the other person to actually initiate the conversation, which I think is great. So, and it's better than tattooing it on your forehead, I guess. Although, nothing wrong with that. I don't want to upset the tattoo artist out there, but yeah, that's a great way to do that. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the word, or the use of the word vegan in your marketing materials and branding, because I think it's interesting with yours, because I guess obviously a lot of your market is the already converted, like people who are already vegan or already passionate about kind of animal advocacy. Now, you've called it Veg Shop, not Vegan Shop. So tell us a little bit about your choice of, why you called it Veg Shop, and just how much or otherwise you use the word vegan in your marketing and branding.
Well, I count myself lucky to get the name Veg Shop. So as we were discussing before, Katrina, there's so many sellers out there that getting a store name can be pretty competitive, like what you might have thought of. And you might think it's really creative and original, but others have thought of it as well. So it's a little bit of a play. Veg Shop in some countries is like a, vegetable shop, but, I'm selling veg and vegan messaging gear. So I went with it that way. I thought it was cute, and I was very fortunate to get it. I was very happy for that. I say, proudly and clearly, vegan. Being vegan is beautiful. I'm working to help my customers express the joy of being vegan. But it's very interesting. So I don't in any way shy away from the term vegan, but it's interesting to see the kind of response I get from customers, which is, even if I sell at a Veg Fest, not everybody who's there at a Veg Fest is necessarily vegan. Some might be vegan, some might be vegetarian, and some might be really interested in the lifestyle and in the process of learning more. So, I have some items that say, I love pigs. That's really popular. And I've found that even vegans, who I know who are vegan activists, sometimes will select I love pigs or something that's a little bit softer. So I do find that it helps to provide different types of messaging, because different people have their own philosophy on what is most effective.
Got it. So when they go to your Etsy store, is it classed as, say, a vegan Etsy store? So how prominent is the word vegan on your Etsy store, for example?
Well, it's pretty prominent. I try to create it as a search term. It's pretty prominent. You barely could miss the fact that vegan is a central message.
Yeah, got it. Cool. Now, you touched on some social media platforms, and I know you mentioned the visual ones, which makes sense because you make jewelry, like Pinterest, Instagram. So in terms of that, what have you found that have been most successful? Because social media changes constantly, and what worked a year ago or even 6 months ago doesn't necessarily work now. So just curious to kind of find what some of your findings have been, or some of your strategies have been in regards to social media marketing, and what's working, what isn't.
Right. So I started on Facebook long before I opened my Etsy shop, and the people that I'm friends with on Facebook are people I actually know. I've found that that's the most effective one for sales, especially at first when I was just getting started and really needed to rely on my community. I did find, messaging on Facebook most effective. I also enjoy Facebook, putting messages to my friends in terms of getting feedback on new designs, and people are very happy to give their thoughts and give suggestions, and that's been very helpful to me. I found Instagram somewhat successful, but it's the same kind of question that we were discussing before, Katrina, of I've invested a lot of time in it, and whether I have gotten customers from it, but whether it's worth the investment of time is another question. But with everything I'm doing, I do have multiple objectives. And so I know that Instagram has been really effective in, making being vegan seem really cool and really fun. So I also feel like I'm contributing to that as well. I do not find that Twitter has been effective for my products. I don't think that people tend to go to Twitter to look for artivism and craftivism items that they can buy. I don't think that that's the best platform. I think Pinterest might be very good, and I frankly haven't given that one enough time yet.
Cool, got it. Now, I like that you shared that. And what I particularly like that I'll draw attention to is what you said about getting feedback from people, because particularly if it's on your personal profile and not necessarily or even if it's on your page profile, that's a really kind of smart way to get people on board without just like posting a picture of your latest product and saying, buy this now. Because, people don't really like being kind of sold or hard sold to all the time. Like, here's my stuff, buy it. So there's a way of doing it. I like that you put that out there. It's like, hey, look, I'm working on this design. What do you think about it? So you're kind of getting people's buy-in, and they almost feel like they're part of the process. But of course, at the same time, you're letting them know and reminding them about your veg shop. So I think that's a kind of a quite a cool strategy that I think brands could really take on board instead of just doing this buy my stuff.
Well, and another aspect of Facebook that was really helpful, particularly at first, but even now, is friends of mine have been really great about buy Susan's stuff, right? So you get a third person to say it. People do really nice posts. I had a friend who reached out to me and said, Susan, I want to do a post promoting your shop around Christmas time, which was really thoughtful. And, others, for example, A Well-Fed World, I did a commission with particular items in support of that nonprofit organization and got a really beautiful Facebook post out of it. So you can reach a lot of people even beyond your direct friends, because your friends will sort of shamelessly plug for you, even if you don't want to do it for yourself.
Yes, and that's always nice to get that third-party endorsement as well. No, for sure. That's interesting. I just want to pick up on what you said about working with the non-profits. So how did that sort of work? Is it simply that you kind of had contacts there so they were happy to share your stuff, or was there something maybe a bit more formal in place? Because I think people are kind of interested in that. I know I've spoken to other business owners who, create fashion products and stuff, and they think, it would be so great to tap into the members of, some of these large non-profits. Do you have any tips about how to go about that?
Well, so for me, it was pretty organic in the sense that these are organizations that I'm a pretty hardcore volunteer for. And so they actually came to me and made the offer. So a really great example of that is Erica Meyer. When I first started doing this, again, I didn't yet have an Etsy shop or yet have that in mind even. And I donated several items to Compassion Over Killing. And Erica Meyer, the president of Compassion Over Killing, was one of my first customers. And she was the one who very generously came to me and proposed, basically they've helped me out a lot. They've really gotten the word out. And I'm just extremely grateful for that. And even PETA did a little pop-up shop for me at one of their volunteer events, and they reached out to me and said, "Oh, would you be interested in doing this?" So I was like, "Of course, it'd be wonderful." So it's nice when they reach out to you. As an aside, and I can talk a little bit more about that. As an aside, another way that I try to make this a win-win is sometimes I buy some of my supplies for the items that I produce through Amazon. Amazon has a subsection called Amazon Smile, where 1% of what you buy gets donated to a nonprofit organization at no cost to you. So when I buy some of my supplies for the shop, and also personally, I do Amazon Smile for Compassion Over Killing. So, keep the positive vibes moving forward as well.
Fantastic.
And then others. So I've donated items to Popper Spring Animal Sanctuary, which is our local farm animal sanctuary here in DC. There are others as well. And they gave me some very nice advertising in their annual fundraiser booklet. And then I've also been able to donate to the Humane Society of the United States and the Humane League. So, that's, I think of the people who buy from me as helping me to support these nonprofit organizations, in terms of their fundraising.
Got it. I love that. So it's having or developing a relationship with the nonprofit. So rather than just going to them cold and saying, hey, here I am, will you promote my products? It's kind of building that relationship up, either volunteering or, as you've done, offering to donate something to them so they can really kind of get to know you, so that it becomes that win-win relationship. So I love how you've done that.
Yeah, I do. I find that community has been really helpful, and it's the community that was there in place before I really started the shop.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Now, in terms of, you mentioned third-party endorsements, getting other people to say great things about your products, and obviously getting into the media is a fantastic way of doing that. I'm just curious, and I know you've only been running for a little while now. Have you had any media coverage yet, or is it something you're looking to get?
So I have. So I am a big fan for anybody who's particularly interested in Etsy and considering opening an Etsy shop. I am a big fan of the Etsy Conversations podcast. That is a terrific resource. I've learned a lot from that and been very inspired from that, as well as your podcast, Katrina. And so I was a guest on that podcast, and that was a lot of fun. And that was another thing where the audience for that is going to be largely, artisans and craftspeople, makers. And I think that's a terrific community to get this go veg, go vegan message out to.
Did you know whether you got any sales from that? I know it might be kind of quite hard to measure, but do you know whether that actually led to any sales or any connections like with that broader market?
So I got a good number of shop views, but no sales from that. I would say, though, if anybody is interested in opening an Etsy shop, I do recommend listening to the particular episode that I was on, because I give a lot of wonky details that I don't want to go into here about search engine optimization, how to get the most out of social media and other things like that in relationship to an Etsy shop.
Can you give us one tip around that now that you've brought that up? That is interesting, actually, around search engine optimization, because I'm curious how do people come to your shop? Like, if they don't know you, are they maybe going on Etsy and typing in the word vegan, in which case you would come up? So can you maybe give us a couple of quick little tips around that?
Sure. So, again, search engine optimization, SEO, is really important to understand if you have an Etsy shop, because Etsy has, so many Etsy shops, competition is so stiff, and it can be very hard for people to find you. One tip is, I recently began advertising. If you advertise, you get to see what terms people are putting into the search bar, and that helps you a lot. But even before I started doing that, it's a matter of stringing together 2 or 3 terms. If I just put vegan, you wouldn't be able to find me, because then I'd be lumped together with the, thousands of other vegan products that are available at that moment. So it's being more specific than that and having 2 or 3 word search terms grouped together and conducting the searches yourself to see, if you can find that sweet spot of enough hits and the right types of hits that somebody searching for it might look there and find what they're looking for, but specific enough that your particular product shows up hopefully on the first page, because people are not tempted to scroll page after page to find you.
Yes, yeah. So that's the whole big thing, isn't it? With so many marketers out there saying, we'll get you up page 1 of Google. And, it can be a bit, interesting and complex around those kind of things.
And this, when I say that there's a lot of time dedication to running a successful Etsy shop, I came to this never having done e-commerce before. So I had to teach myself and learn SEO from the ground up. And that's one aspect that can be time consuming. And right now my challenge is to teach myself to write better ads, like Google ads, that would do a better job of getting me sales when I advertise. So there's a lot to learn. And so again, people, I'm not saying that everybody should open a shop like this. I'm just saying these are things to think about when you're considering whether a shop is right for you. Got it.
Well, which kind of answers that question about, if someone is considering making their own stuff and selling it on Etsy, what do they need to take into account? And I think you've offered quite a few advice, tips and strategies on that, which have been really helpful. Now, you mentioned that you had a career in the non-profit sector. What skills from your previous jobs and careers have been useful in running Veg Shop?
Well, researching, writing, thinking strategically, basically running a campaign, basically all the skills that let you launch something from the ground up, especially if you start out as a novice and have to very quickly learn your way to something successful.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What would be...
And so,
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, but in a way, I'm actually trying to do something very different than anything I've done in my career, which is, something more artistic and creative. And so I kind of took a little bit of time to read books like Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, The Artist's Way. Right? It's these great books, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, The Crossroads of Should and Must by Elle Luna, and other things like that to, expand my way of thinking to a more artistic approach to work.
Got it. I love that. What would you say then that would be the key things that you've learned through running Veg Shop? It's been a year now. So what have you? Yeah, what have been the key things that you've taken from it?
Really having community come out and help me was critical to getting the shop off the ground. One of the problems when you open a shop is you're at a disadvantage. The company Etsy has algorithms as to who gets placed higher up or lower down on a search. And one of the factors there is how many sales you already have under your belt. So a new shop is at a great disadvantage. So you just need to learn how, knowing that and learning what factors will get you noticed, how to use what resources you have at hand to get yourself where you need to be to make those initial sales that you can then keep building and building upon.
Got it. And it's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about that around funding. And I know this, like you say, it started out as a side hobby. Obviously, there's some startup costs. And I know you mentioned that Etsy is actually very reasonable, but you've still got to buy your materials, to actually create the product, get them shipped and what have you. So do you kind of run Veg Shop as a little mini business in terms of looking about, well, what's your income? What are your outgoings? Can you talk a little bit about that and how you've sort of, I guess, quote, funded the operation?
Sure. So this is totally self-funded. I estimate that I've spent around $3,000 on all of the costs, like the tools, the supplies, the postage, the shipping materials, et cetera. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about always wearing my items is, of course, you make business cards and have them on hand with you at all times so that when people say, "Oh, I love what you're wearing," you can quickly hand them a business card. So all of the sundry startup costs, and I have not reached a break-even point yet, but that is because as soon as money comes in the door, I reinvest it in more supplies and tools.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's part of growing, being a new business and growing it.
That's a very smart way of doing things as well. Yeah, to put it back into the business to get it to grow. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate your honesty, because that gives people a bit of an idea. Because sometimes, I think people start something up and they say, oh, I've got these great cool things, and they, go on these platforms and they expect to suddenly make a ton of sales and be in profit and very, very quickly. And I like the fact that you've said, look, it does take this time. You've got to get known. You've got all these new things to learn. It's not just about creating your fabulous product and putting it up there, like build it and they will come. Like you say, I love that you've shared all of, you've got to learn this stuff around SEO, what you need to do to get up there, getting your community on board, getting those initial sales. So really appreciate you sharing this. This is absolutely fantastic. So final question, I guess then, Susan, what would you say, what's your long-term vision for Veg Shop and yourself?
Well, I would love to see it grow and become income producing. And in order to do that, I need to both build Veg Shop's customer base, and I also need to keep working on what I sell in the shop so that I'm offering items that take me less time and are more profitable on each one. So those are some of the things that I need to think through strategically. And then when Veg Shop is more mature as a shop, I would like it to have its own website. By the way, having one's own commercial website for a new business can be more expensive than working with Etsy. So I need to get to a certain level to make that worth it for me. However, it would be beneficial to do that because people out here like myself are driving a lot of people to Etsy, and those customers can jump off and purchase from other people's shops.
Yes.
In fact, Etsy in your listing at the very bottom, they say other items like this offered by other shops. They kind of, even in your own listing, give a chance for people to jump off. So that's why when a business gets a little bit more mature, people want to drive traffic through their advertising or what have you to their own website.
Got it. That's a really good point. Yes, I'm glad you shared that. That's that makes a lot of sense. Fantastic. So look, this has been really, really helpful, Susan. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing all this great stuff. I know very little about Etsy, and I think anyone who's got a bit of a creative bent to them will get a lot out of this. Like you say, it's a great opportunity to, if you've got the time and you're prepared to invest that time, particularly for a creative, if they haven't necessarily got a load of cash up front, to sort of affordably set something up and test the waters and learn as they go. It obviously sounds like a great platform, whether it's Etsy or some of these other kind of ready-made platforms for people to cut their teeth on, so to speak. So thank you very, very much indeed for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Well, Katrina, thank you so much. And one last thanks is that I just love Vegan Business Talk. I find the story so inspiring, and thank you so much for putting it out there.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's a thanks to people like yourself who come on and are very generous in sharing their expertise. So thank you again, Susan.
Thank you, Katrina.
So that was Susan Prolman from Veg Shop. You can find out more at etsy.com/shop/veg shop. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts and going to episode 64. Now for our Vegan Business News Roundup. Now, many of you will have heard the news this week, that's March 2017 if you're listening in the future, that vegan chef Chloe Coscarelli has been ousted from her business by Chloe. It was quite a shock, and as many of you who are regular listeners to this podcast will know, I've reported many times on the expansion of the By Chloe eateries. According to media reports earlier this year, Coscarelli planned to sue E Squared, the hospitality company that partnered with her to launch By Chloe, because they wanted to open meat-based restaurants using the By Chloe name, although Samantha Wasser from E Squared denied this in a statement to Veg News this week. The news of Coscarelli's ousting from By Chloe was reported by the Wall Street Journal, and Coscarelli has said she plans to pursue legal action to protect her brand. So obviously there's quite a bit that we don't know yet in regards to the details and regarding contracts and so on, but hopefully we'll find out more as time goes on. The good news is that Coscarelli issued a statement on her Facebook page saying she was determined to stay positive and urged other budding entrepreneurs to stand their ground and pursue their dreams. She also said she looked forward to revealing some new projects and ventures, so I'll report on those as they come to light. A vegan bakery in Toronto, Canada is launching a Hoser metal bar. Apocalypse has soft-opened Foo Bar Toronto after working on the project in secret for just over a year. Now, in case you're wondering what hoser means, I know I was, so I Googled it. It's a slang term meaning loser. Now, one particular origin story says that it comes from ice hockey players on the losing team having to hose down the ice rink after a game. So I'm thinking actually now maybe it's pronounced hooser, not hoser. I don't know. So if there's any Canadians tuning into this episode, maybe you can let me know. So the all-vegan venue, which is described by the owners as a dive, will operate upstairs from Apocalypse's regular restaurant on Bloor Street West. To kick off with, it's got 26 seats for people to eat, with plans to have it running as a full bar later this year, complete with vegan beers and cocktails, as well as a bar snacks menu in the evenings and slightly extended hours. Initial opening hours are 4 p.m. to 10 p.m, and you can keep up to date with announcements on Foo Bar's Facebook page. Isn't it great to see more specialty vegan businesses? Now, I can't profess to be a metal fan myself, but I love the diversity. A vegan gym is set to open in Portland, Oregon next month, reports Veg News. Liberation Barbell is the brainchild of co-founders Lacey Davis and Christina Cabrales. Davis, a vegan of 19 years, has been a personal trainer since 2013. As a feminist, she's taken an intersectional approach to her personal training business by ensuring it's accessible to people from all walks of life with varying body types. Davis, who used weightlifting to gain a positive body image after overcoming an eating disorder, said the space is particularly welcoming to people who may feel uncomfortable or misunderstood in traditional gym settings. I felt passionately that queer people, trans people, fat people, vegans, feminists, nerds, punks, and other weirdos deserved the very same access that I had carved out for myself, she told Veg News. The vegan gym will not sell any non-vegan supplements and aims to dispel the myth that abounds in the fitness industry that you need whey protein, chicken breasts and egg whites to gain strength. What a brilliant initiative. I love how this duo are doing something different. They're zigging when everyone else is zagging. And it's a great way to stand out and to make real change in an industry that's traditionally about celebrating limited body types. Finally, Green Earth Travel Agency is celebrating 20 years in business this year with a 2-day event in July. Owner Donna Zeigfinger, who I interviewed in episode 34 of this podcast, is a pioneer in the ethical green and vegan travel space. Since 1997, she's created customised vacation packages with a focus on sustainability and eco-adventures and tours. Between July 28th and 30th, you're invited to join Donna and other travellers at the Savage River Lodge, a luxury and eco-friendly accommodation in Frostburg, Maryland, for a weekend of hiking, shopping, optional tours and demos, or just hanging out and enjoying nature. Green Earth Travel's anniversary celebration dinner will be held on the Saturday night. For more information and to book, you can contact Donna at greenearthtravel.com or check out the Green Earth Travel Facebook page. Huge kudos and congratulations to Donna. While there's a surge of interest in vegan travel at the moment, it's always good to recognise and acknowledge those business owners who've been there at the forefront of working in a sector when veganism wasn't as popular as it is now. So happy 20th anniversary to Donna and Green Earth Travel. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a review and rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. Finally, I encourage you to head over to veganbusinessmedia.com, where you can find more resources, including details of my media and PR consultations, copywriting, editing and proofreading services to help you grow your vegan business. I'm Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Vegan Business Talk. Bye for now.